I didn't bring my synthesizer.
Unless I knew you were talking to your answer.
Yeah. So the reason I didn't bring it is we had one in the car. So it had to go, which is unfortunate. But then Greg suggested I talk about the history of electro music. And if that's what if anybody's interested in that, I can get into that. It's just us. No, I can skip that. I'll talk about time quantization so that the subject is what I was thinking about. But I've always been interested in time, and I obsessively collect watches and obsessively look at timepieces and watch the second hand move along. And I noticed that when I first look at a watch with a sweep second hand, the hand appears to move very slowly at first and then start moving at its regular rate. And even if it's a ticking clock, I noticed that. And I never really understood that, but I obsessively kept watching it. Just about a week ago, I saw Through the Wormhole program, and they were talking about how people perceive time. And apparently, that's a natural phenomenon. Lots of people, when they first look at a clock, that second hand either moves very slowly or not at all until their mind grasps that it's something that's moving. And then their mind figures out the expected rate of advance, and then the second hand seems to move perfectly smoothly. So the perception of time, I think, seems to be connected to the expectation of events in our mind, how they're going to go along. So people get a feeling of natural expectation of the speed of things and when things happen. When I play the piano, which is my major instrument, and I also pick on the ukulele and stuff, I find myself getting out of time. It's as though something in my brain is the opposite of a percussionist who knows what the correct time is and makes sure that every note falls on time. I think you're smiling. I'm notoriously bad to play with as a musician because if the tempo is moving along, I tend to want to buck the tempo. I don't know why that is. I either want to speed it up or slow it down. And if other people are used to tempos that don't slow down to speed up, it's really unpleasant for them to play with me unless they get the knack of it after a while. I also don't like to play in one key. If I hear a key established like C major, my tendency is I don't want to hear another note in C major. I can't stand it after a while. So pop music isn't really my favorite kind of music. But, so I don't know where all this is coming to. I became fascinated with people who play really good piano, like Keith Jarrett and some of the other famous pianists whose name I can't remember. But they're so precise in their timing, and it's almost as though the time was chopped up and they were told to play only on a certain note. So I programmed my synthesizer to do that, and I wish I had it with me. But basically, the whole concept of time quantization goes back to the early MIDI sequencers that we used to get back in the 80s, when MIDI first came out, early 80s. And you could record yourself playing, and then you could tell it to quantize all the notes to 8th notes or 16th notes. Do they still have that in the sequencers?
Yes.
Okay, well, that tripped me out. I suddenly heard myself playing in time, which is something I can't do. And I became obsessed with that. So one of these programmable synthesizers that can handle this, I made patches that force you to play in time. So if I play a note and it's late, it won't get played until the next clock tick. So there's a clock tick going along, and I'm playing keyboard and in real time memorizing what I play and then forcing it on the next clock tick. So that's what I could demonstrate, is how to force the music to be in time, at least measured by a digital clock.
So there's an interesting concept. I have the same problem, but I found, like, I mean, a lot of what we do now is different from when we started. We started off with a laptop and Reason and stuff like that. We would, in building our songs, you know, we would lay down a chord pattern or something rhythmic, and then we would develop, you know, a melody or something on top of that. But I found that, I mean, again, my rhythm was off terrible too, and I think the rhythm was important for the beat and stuff like that. But if I would take like you know, an improvised melody or something that I had just kind of, you know, put it on chord and played and said, oh, that's pretty good. Maybe I could fix one note or something in the editor. But if I tried to quantize it, the feeling was completely, it sucked. It was just, it wasn't right. And so there's a little bit of, as you're going along, yeah, there's a little bit of ebb and flow to the timing that actually adds that kind of feeling to certain pieces. And I think that's important too, besides, you know, trying to stay with the rest of the group you're playing with at the same time. I don't know where the dividing line is, but it's...
I don't know where the dividing line is. I don't play like that all the time.
Yeah.
However, I'm fascinated by time. To pick up on what John was saying, that's his name, right? Who was just speaking? And to pick up on what he does, I am sort of fascinated by frogs and crickets. Okay, and at first, sometimes you can almost snap your fingers to the rhythm of a chorus of frogs or crickets, but they never. It's not rhythmic like that. Somebody in there gets on a different beat, and then the time shifts around, and they never play in actual on a beat. And even though there's time, you know, just listen to them. You know, it's like a bunch of people beating their own time, and sometimes it all syncs up, and sometimes it falls apart. And I really like that effect more than somebody writing a pop tune where everything plays along. So yeah, most of the time I don't use that trick.
Yeah.
But I'm very self-conscious when I play. So to solve the last part of my talk about time quantization was I discovered that if you play into a delay, like 15 seconds, you play into a 15-second delay where you don't hear yourself play for 15 seconds. So sit down at the keyboard and start playing. Now, if you're a keyboard player or any kind of musician, you almost know what you're playing, but you can't hear it. And then 15 seconds you hear it start up. And that's the most exhilarating feeling in the world, because now you're playing a duet with yourself, but you're never hearing the two voices playing at the same time. So your ability to judge yourself is thrown out the window, because it's 15 minutes in the past that you were playing what you're hearing. And now you're playing something that you won't hear for 15 seconds in the future.
At first, that really drove me crazy, because I come from a rock guitar player type of thing, so part of how I play guitar is listening to what's happening in real time.
Oh, yeah.
Then when I started getting more electronic and processing delays and all these other things, would add great texture and timing weirdness to it. It really took me a lot to get used to the fact that I wasn't here. I had to.
Oh, so you've done this?
Yeah, my mind had to. And it feels strange in my head. It feels like my sense of time has to expand to account for that 15-second window, and load that, and then load what else I'm doing, and keep track of it all in the different, time references. It's exhilarating.
It is. It's just a fantastic feeling. And I reckon. Okay, so if you use a short time, like 1 or 2 or 3 seconds. You go, you plunk a note and it goes ding, ding, ding. So now you can play along. You end up playing time quantized music because that note that you hear is always coming exactly 1 beat.
Yeah.
Now you stretch that out. It's why I said 15 seconds. You stretch it out to 5 seconds, 10 seconds. Some point, there is no noticeable, you can't really tell how long the delay is. You know, if I ask you to clap your hands once every 15 seconds without a light bulb or something flashing off, I would be, unless you're a percussionist, I would be really surprised to see anybody keep it up. It's just very frustrating. It's just too slow for us to sense it as a rhythm. And that's, so now you're playing for the future and you're listening to the past. And you are somewhere in the middle, and I'm not exactly sure where you are in the middle. So everybody can get 15-second delays with the equipment these days somehow. MIDI delay is probably the easiest way to do it. I recommend doing that. So that's what I was going to talk about, and it's something I put a lot of time on. Now, since I forgot my equipment, or didn't bring my equipment, talk about electro music, because this is something that is kind of dear to me. Without giving you a story to my life, I was an electrical engineer and a musician, and I retired, and I had the chops to build a website and other electronic capabilities. So in about 2002, I retired from Bell Labs and built the website electromusic.com by getting public domain software for a forum. And so I put up the forum, and Greg was the first. Greg and I met on our way to a music event in Okefenokee Swamp. We drove down with Bill Fox in the car, and Greg and I were talking a lot. We have almost identical philosophical viewpoints on most things, but positively the same viewpoint about music. And so Greg and I got pretty close intellectually or philosophically from the trip back and forth. So he helped me out getting started. I mean, if you go to the first, 2003, I think, was the first website. It's like, Greg, can you read this? And he writes, yeah, I can read it, okay. Can you read this? That's the first forum post. It's just that. There were 2 members on it. The Bill, I think he's number 10. And somehow it exploded quickly, and we got a lot of members from all over the world. And the philosophy that we have is that music is for the joy of making the music. And what differentiates the niche that we're into is that we share a common fascination with electronic sounds and the ways of making and processing electronic sounds. So we're like into electronic sounds and also electroacoustic. So that's what the website is dedicated to. So we have an open forum, and we decided to put on a festival near where we live in Philly. We put on a festival 10 years ago, approximately 11 years ago. And it was a smash success for us because just from the website, we got people from all over the world to come. We got people from Belgium and the Netherlands and England, and as well as all over the United States. And the music was fantastic, and somehow everybody kind of locked into the fact that the audience was going to be people who loved the music, not people that are looking for a good time or looking for whatever people go to concerts for. Our audience was ourselves. Although we got quite a few of other interested people to come. We weren't in it for the money. In fact, we pay for the people who come to play, pay enough for attendance to pay for the renting of the hall and any other expenses that we have. So here's a bunch of people that come, pay for the venue, play just for the experience of playing. And now we have ability to upload music. Well, we got that pretty quick. And there's literally thousands, I don't remember. It was something like 3,200 the last time I looked, of music compositions that have been uploaded to electromusic.com. And we have 5 radio stations, streaming radio stations, that stream music from this collection of music we have. And everybody's a volunteer to They write playlists, put them on. We have people that do radio programs on the show, live radio programs. Paul Harriman, who's setting up equipment out there, has a 2-hour radio show every week called Edison's Electronic Review. And he actually puts together a 2-hour show of music from CDs that he has, as well as stuff that's been posted before. It's a very good show. Bill and I have a club date where we stream an hour show of Twindlings every Saturday at 6 p.m. We have people that come and listen to us play every Saturday. People from all over the world check into the chat room. We know they're listening, and they say, you know, they meet, they chat, and they listen to us play. There's lots of live music being streamed over the air. We have events, 4 events, the equinoxes and the solstice. We also have New Year's Eve and other spontaneous events where people stream from all over. So you could be in the Netherlands and stream at 5 o'clock to 5:30, and then the next guy picks up from England, and the next guy picks up from California, and somebody comes in from wherever. And it's like a long 12 to 24-hour radio show of live music from people all over the world. And we have jams where people can connect to our server and stream music together. We call them latency jams because you can't sync them up. We have all kinds of ways of doing that. It's all free, we've got a real community. Now, Greg moved down here from Pennsylvania a few years ago, and he started doing the Asheville Electro Music Festival. We have an electro music festival that's now in New York. We have one in Kansas City, one in Indianapolis, not this year because Charles is not doing too well, but I hope he'll start picking it up. Who's the guy in Colorado that wants to put it together? Mark Mosher. He's been threatening to put one on in Colorado, and I've been threatening to put one on in Florida over Christmas vacation, because that's where my family is, and I go down there. So we've got this community, which you are all part of. It's sort of mysterious to me, and it's sort of a miracle to me. And, you know, I look at, you know, what's going on here. It's well beyond me and my idea for what started it. It's just so surprising to me. And now we're reaching a threshold where we have to think about what this is all about and where does it go in the future. Because it's just sort of organically grown into what it is now without anybody thinking it out and coming up with a strategy. You have something to say?
Just a comment. You know, I've been listening to you talk about the history of philosophy, and just wanted to pop up and say how important the whole thing has been to me personally. We started off, you know, I started off listening to going to Nearfest and progressive music, which stopped progressive, right?
Yeah.
So and then it started to corrupt mainly because they tried to bring in new stuff and the people didn't really want it. Anyway, but so wound up at a Sonic Circus Festival in DC, and it was like, I mean, literally bugging eyes and jaw dropping. You know, this is amazing because of the freedom, the experimental nature. But and then what we find in electro music, all of that, to me, is the community. You know, people really, you know, when we first arrived, we were like the new kids on the block, and I was like, I wonder if these guys are any good, whatever. But we started playing, and the room filled up, and ever since then, we've been part of the family. But, you know, it all, you know, and you're sort of to me, the nucleus of it, but it's got a life of its own, and more people are coming out of the woodwork, I find, hungering to hear more, something that really is new, that really is creative, and you know, I'd like to see it grow to other cities, especially venues like this where it's more accessible to the general public. But to me, it's a living, vital thing, and I'm just tickled to death to be a part of it. It's a big deal.
Tickled to be part of it too. Yeah. I don't know where this is going to go. It doesn't cost a lot to run the website. I'll tell you, it's like approximately $100 a month. And people have donated designs for circuit boards that the Clay sequencer and the MPS drum sequencer, they donated the designs. So all I had to do was take the files that they gave me, and the design was debugged by members on the forum. And all I have to do is manufacture the boards and send them out, and that makes money to pay for the website. And volunteer came out of the woodwork, a guy named SynthCube, and now he's going to take care of all that work and just send money to keep the thing going. So he already has come up with $2,000, and that pays for the server for the next 2 years. So it's just amazing, you know, it's just amazing. So we have 5 administrators now, and like 4 people who do the radio, keep the radio going all the time. The website keeps getting bigger. It's old technology, and you know, I don't know what to do with it as a forum. Forums are kind of old school, but it seems to be the only thing appropriate. Now we have a wiki, one of the guys put up. Where does this go? I have no idea. But it can't be on my back anymore, because my back's getting too old. But it's actually automatically getting off of my back. So if somebody makes the money, you know, we have system administrators now. I can not have to be there for system administrating. It's just sort of a miracle. And that's where we are. So this community, I don't, you know, this is much different than we both thought was going to happen. And there are other people that it's a big part of their lives. I mean, it's a major contribution that they're working on. And so that's the story of electro music. And where it goes, it's up to everybody to chip in. So if anybody has any ideas, talk to me and Greg and Bill or Paul or anybody that's here. You know, everybody can volunteer and kick in. I don't know what's going on with this. It's like, I've been part of other things, but they were always associated with something, some pre-existing cause, you know, like politics. I've gotten involved with like activism and stuff like that. This is not involved with any politics. It's just for love of music.
I think that's why it's so popular, because you've come up with and filled that void that so many musicians were looking for, because it's for the love of music, and everyone, like you said, all over the world can come together and share.
It's sharing
and enjoy
music. Yeah, that's part of what we think of as
benefit.
You come here not to perform as much as contribute. We don't like the word performer, and we don't like the word show. It's not a show. We try to avoid certain words that kind of put it into the music industry. We don't want to be part of the music industry. And so you come here to support the other, to listen, to be generous by listening, and then to talk to people if you are moved by what they're doing. And okay, I see.
I'm not sure if this is proper terminology, but you think of electro music as being an open source community.
Yeah.
It is what all of us make us together. It's not one person leading the charge. We're all pitching in, making it what it is. And if you have nothing to contribute this week, that's okay, no problem. If you have something to contribute and really want to do it, just go ahead and do it, and things start happening. You know, Greg is outstanding at organizing festivals. He did Mountain, this was originally Mountain Skies. He did Pocono Skies when you were living up there. You're essential at organizing the main electro music. And as long as he's energized to do that, these things will continue to happen. But other people have started picking up the torch in Indianapolis and so on around the country. And the more people who pick up the torch and run with it, the more electro music will grow. And it's an open source community, is the way I look at it.
Yeah, I think that's true. As I was sitting here, I'm trying to think of what exactly is it that drives it. And to me, what keeps coming to my head is it is for its own sake. It's the people and the music, and that's always changing because, you know, like, we're always coming up with new gear and new ways to use it. And as long as people are doing that, and bringing it here and sharing it, this place, it grows and it changes. Like I mentioned the Nearfest thing, part of that's demise, it became a stereotype, it became a nostalgia, and it died.
Yeah.
You know, this thing is like, and it's like one of the most gratifying things in this personal thing. I'm not going to really go into it, but my life is a place, looking for a place where I felt like fitting in doesn't interest me, but the sense of belonging does. And I found that here in a big way, because when all of a sudden it's like, at first it's like, well, who the hell are you? But within, the first performance, like, oh, okay, you have something to contribute. And then, we walk in, by here, people I don't even know who the hell they were, would come up and say, I'm so glad to see you, what are you going to do this year? It's like, but it was really, that's the life of this whole thing. I mean,
Well, that's good.
I either attended every Nearfest or 2-3 years I was on staff for a little while. And I understand what you're saying, because that is, let's put together a concert and let's have audience come in, pay money to see the kind of music that they all enjoy together. But
what they want to hear is, I want to hear you do it the way you did it back in Berlin 15 years ago when you
Right.
passed gas on stage.
Right.
That's really what they want to hear.
yeah, I was lucky enough to play the after party at the last Nearfest in 2012.
Yeah, we were.
And, but then it's such a different animal from electro music,
Yeah.
where everyone who attends is contributing in some way.
Yeah, I remember that one poor Scottish band, the guy comes out there, he's running up and down the stage and pumping his fist, and all the other people are sitting there going, what the hell are you doing?
Or even the fish.
No, Fish was a great big Palace or
Oh,
something.
pallets, okay.
Yeah, the little Scottish guy, he was like, yeah, everybody's like, okay.
Well, one thing is, and this is where I was wrong. This is where I was wrong. I expected when we started doing these things that there would be an electro music style that, here's where I came from. I kind of like got a degree in composition and stuff, so when I was working, I couldn't do anything. Then I was at the point of, now I'm free, what am I going to do? Well, if this was 1913 or 1910, I would go to Paris and join the Impressionist style. Or if it was 1920, I would go to Berlin and become an expressionist, a serialist composer, and I would be a friend of all of the Bergs and Schoenbergs and that. So where am I going to go now? Because I have the money, I can go anywhere I want. And there's nowhere to go. There's no school of music that I found acceptable. So I was partially ego-wise, wanted to start my own solution to that. And I thought, oh, well, it's going to have its own style so that in a few years, everyone will know that electro music sounds just like this. And it doesn't sound just like this.
No, I got
It sounds like nothing. You couldn't describe it. And that's the real joy
That's
of
what's
it.
so great about it. I got yelled at when Charlie Schreiner was doing a thing, and
Yeah.
he was in a room, and we were talking about creativity, and I said, I never want to hear a road synthesizer that sounds like Emerson, Lake and Palmer. I never want to hear people tempered scale, and don't ever tell me I have to follow the circle of fifths.
You said that?
Yeah, and some people said, you can't do that. And it's like, watch me. That's what we do. That's what we do, because it's like the people tempered scale is a fraud. It was just people make it up.
let's not get into that.
But whatever you view it, I mean, people do great things with it. I just am not interested, and I want to do something else, and this provides a vehicle for that.
That's true, but if you wanted to play an equal timbre scale, you
That's
can do it all
fine
night.
too. Yeah.
A lot of us are doing that, a lot of us are playing atonal, it doesn't matter.
And that's what I was saying. And it's what got me yelled at was I was misheard. I said, I am not interested in doing that at the moment.
Well, you don't have to.
Right, so you
And that's-
don't have to fit in, you can do whatever you want.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, that once we got through that, it was great.
Way in the back.
What has appealed so much to this whole experience for me is I'm not like a great musician myself, but when I come and see how diverse all the musicians are, because I had never been to an electro music festival before, I didn't know what to expect. and just seeing the different ways that everyone plays and everyone has their own sound and how they compose their music. And I think that by creating it, you've helped fill that void for so many musicians who all have their different ways and how they look at things and create things to all come together and share how they see and how they hear and how they put together music. So to me, that's what makes it so cool, unique, different. And I think you do have your own sound in that way because you're not like everyone else. Well, that puts together events and they put together bands that have
Same sound.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
coming here, it's totally different and unique because there is so much variety and you don't find that everywhere else.
Greg counterbalanced my attitude about wanting everything to sound the same. And I was easily convinced that that was what I wanted really, what I thought at the beginning. It's kind of interesting. My whole philosophy of life has changed as a result of all this. I can't tell you what my philosophy of life is, but this is such a big part of my life that it definitely changed it. And Greg deserves a lot more credit than he gets. Because he's so quiet, he doesn't really go around saying great things like that. But this wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for him. Yeah.
So, Howard, I've been scouting out in Florida for the last couple of years,
Okay.
having an event down there. So,
You do?
well, I've been looking at some different areas to do it. And I thought about, possibly doing it in February.
In what city?
Well, Tavares, I already went, they have a beautiful park and everything right next to the lake.
What's the name of the city?
Tavares, it's by Mount Dora. It's about 5 miles, it's north of Orlando,
Okay.
almost due north. It's
It
a
has to
beauty.
be in February because it'd be unbearable there in summer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's-
right.
Yeah.
And I checked, I went back 25 years looking at the weather, and they had rain just on 7 days for that particular date anyway.
All right.
So,
So let's talk about
all
that.
right, I've been really studying, Howard, and just, I didn't know if everybody was for the idea or not, but I sure would like to have it,
We
because,
have sort of an unstated philosophy around here. It's called JFDI. Just fucking do it.
okay, I know, I remember seeing it. All right. So,
Yes.
Yeah, so I have a practical question. I know a lot of musicians are happy to contribute music, but how did you find administrators to step up to the plate and take on technical duties and that sort of thing?
Or did they
I
find?
didn't search out anyone because I was afraid that I was doing everything. And I was afraid if I got somebody that I didn't know real well and wasn't close, that it would get messed up. And then I got sick. And my sickness is mostly big psychological. I get really bad depression sometimes. I can't really do anything. The site started going down the tubes from a maintenance point of view. And people that were on the site a lot, mainly Jan Hunter, but others, as time went on, said, can I have the super user password? I'll go in and fix this stuff. And I gave it to them because it was like, I wasn't feeling good. And they just stood up, and they messed things up. But for the part, they fixed things more than they messed things up. After a while, I got over the stress of that happening and just saying, okay, I'm not the system administrator anymore. Well, I am, but only in the highest level of the response. I pay the bill. So I don't know how to get all these people to volunteer. I don't know what it is. They just say, I can do this. Can I do it? Yeah, go ahead.
For the love of music.
So
They raise their hands, said, I can do this.
other administrators have asked them to help. That's really what's happening. I usually get a note from somebody And now, you know, we're almost set up so that almost anybody can run it.
Excellent.
But when I get sick, I get scared because like I think, oh, well, what if I can't do anything anymore? Then this is just gonna die. And that would be a real tragedy. So I'm trying to look for a way we can move forward where no one person is responsible, you know, that it becomes some kind of self-perpetuating thing. But then again, I don't want to be, make it too strict and, you know, I don't know what to do. It just keeps going. Maybe it'll just die naturally someday, maybe, oh, everything dies. So I don't know what's going on with it, but we'll just keep doing it. So I thank everybody for coming and having an interest in participating in all this. And it's just new people all the time. We have 15 minutes till the next talk.
What synth is it that you would have brought, had you brought it?
Oh, a G2, the Nord modular. It has a great ability to process MIDI data. However, another way to do it would be with an iPad app called Lemur. And Lemur is like, you know, just amazingly good for MIDI processing. You can make controls, touch controls. It's like wonderful. And it has much more memory than Nord modular has for. Nord modular, you run about 10 or 12 notes, depending on how much time resolution you want it runs out of memory. But the Lemur has, you know, whatever you've got in your iPad, it can store a symphony into it. If you're interested, you know, you can contact me on the forum. And you have a Nord modular?
No.
Okay.
Is there a form at the website? Because I'm not familiar with it, and I haven't listened to electronic music for a long time, unless I joined up, like, back in the days when there were Commodore 64s and sequencers. I think my first keyboard with MIDI was the Prophet 600.
Oh, yeah.
And that was like one of the first ones. But do you have user forums that you can ask tech questions?
Oh, we have
about different gear,
tons
type
of
of stuff.
Yeah, if you haven't been to the site, it's very deep. It's got, oh, I don't know, I bet it has like 35, 40 sub-forums.
Yeah.
If you play in virtually any synthesizer, there's probably a sub-forum of users there to help you out. And there's sub-forums on composition, and we have a snooze where people talk about anything and everything. There's space freaks on there that talk about space program. Some people.
A lot of DIY.
Oh, tons of DIY stuff, you know. We seem to be the biggest DIY site.
What was your original plan? Because you said that, you know, that it sort of spread, it flowered like beyond what you imagined it was going to be. What was the original vision?
The original vision was selfish. Just like I wanted a place to play electronic music, and I wanted to be involved in a community of composers. So I could put it together for myself to be involved in that. I guess I did it in a way which didn't come off as selfish. But my original motivation was
What you wanted, all other musicians wanted too. They wanted to find a community of
Yeah.
like-minded people where someone would listen to what they were doing.
right. He had the same value. I mean, you know, he had the same values. You know, we just liked the music and we liked listening to other people to do it. We enjoyed. We wanted to put on a festival where we could play. That was a big factor for me. And
Any place that would let us play.
yeah, I don't think nobody would let us play, right? So it was selfish when I started off, and now it's not. I mean, it's way beyond me. And so I get a lot of credit for being a lot better person than I really am. So,
It sounds to me like something that we talked about in radio. I used to work for a radio station called WMUH out of Allentown and WDIY. And
Bill. I had shows at those stations.
right now,
Yeah.
okay, so you probably know James Farley. I worked with Tom Artisan.
Okay.
So we had the Land of Many Colors, and Charles James was a good friend of mine.
Yeah.
He lives on Eastman Avenue there in Brooklyn.
So you followed us down I-81, huh?
Yeah, it's strange how that happened.
Should
One of
have
the,
thrown your thumb
huh?
out. Should have thrown your thumb out when you get here.
No, I live here now, in Black
It's a little like ham radio.
Yeah, and
It's a little bit like ham radio.
the thing that was big, one of the people who were on the air at the time that was doing the early electronic stuff was a guy by the name of Joe Schmidt.
Yeah,
And Joe always did these experimental tapes that people were producing, and it created this sort of local phenomenon called home tapers. You know, people were just circulating cassette tapes.
this is nothing, what we've got is nothing original. It's just the attitude of putting it together.
Yeah.
And, I mean, there's no music here that's, you know, I mean, there's people all over, but they get stuck into the venue problem. So they want to perform their music, and all of a sudden, there's venues. You know, so there's the academic venue, and you have to write music that sounds academic, and you have to have the story to go along with it. You know, the academic jargon to explain what you're doing. So if you don't have that, you can't get a gig playing at the University of California at Berkeley concert series or Princeton University. And then there's the DJ type of music, you know. So if you don't have a strong beat, you know, you're not going to get a gig at any DJ club, you know, or any club. There's very few clubs that we've ever played at, that I mean conjointly here, that you don't just play once and never get invited back. And we've even played at jazz clubs. We played at the Airhead Inn, which is like one of the most prestigious jazz clubs. I asked the owner, how did we play? He said, oh, wow, your music was fantastic. Oh, you think we could come back? No, we'll never have you play that. Why is that? Because people stopped buying food and they stopped drinking, and they just sat down and listened to the music. And we're not here for people to listen to music. We're here to sell food and drinks. Oh, where were we going to play? You know, we're going to play here. We're going to do it ourselves.
But we did get an album out of that.
We got
We're
an
we're the only people other than Keith Jarrett allowed to have the album title Live at